What's up, Foundry? How we doing today? Boy, I tell you what, each week is a challenge. Many of you are back in school. And I think, and there may be a few of you that are actually in class. I know of one, and I don't know about Rutherford County. I'm not sure. But I know here in Davidson County, we're not in classes as yet. And you may have decided to do distance learning as well. So however it is, I think you're back in class in some form or fashion at this time. So be safe, be smart, be masked, be distant, have clean hands, all those kinds of things. We want to keep you healthy, guys. You're very important to us, very important to me. So please, watch yourself, do things well. Now, let's get into this, and I'm going to continue on our study on fear. And let me get real with you. This is one of my fears, and it may be one of your fears as well. I think it really, to a large extent, is a general experience that we have in the fear of failure. Fear of failure. How many times have you not done something? Someone said, "Hey, let's try this," or maybe it's trying out for a team, trying out for a musical or a drama thing, trying to do something more in scholastically. But you say, "Well, I tell you what, I won't try that one because I might fail." You ever done that? I certainly have done that. Back in the day, we didn't have honors when I was in high school. We had something called college prep. And college prep was one of those, similar to honors today. You got some really great teachers and smaller classes, and also the demands were higher. It was tough. And I came close at times. They said, "Larry, you'd qualify for this, and your grades are great. Why don't you do this?" And there was a period of time that I thought, I don't think so. Why? Because if I get there and I don't do well, and I don't get the grades that I would like to get, then I will be a failure. And I came this close to not doing it. And I want to tell you, as I look back at my high school days, and I can remember them. I really can. It's 50 years ago that I graduated. Can you believe that? But I remember those days in the late 60s, and I graduated in 70. Some of the greatest memories I have today are those college prep classes, those honors classes. Were they hard? Yes. Did I always make the grades that I should have made? Well, no. But the reason was there was greater challenge. And that greater challenge brought out in me a feeling of, I can do this. What would have happened if I would have said, I'm not going to take the honors class, I'm going to back down and do something that I know I can do, and I know I can succeed in, and I know I won't be a failure at. Well, maybe I'd have had a few better grades, but I guarantee you the experience that I had would not have been the same. Wouldn't have been. Wouldn't have got the better teachers, and I wouldn't have a great group of students that propelled me on and I want to stay up with and work hard with. The fear of failure will make you back down and will cause you to lose great opportunities to grow. Because you see, you don't grow without conflict, without the struggle, without the, can I do this and what do I have to do to try to advance this? That kind of struggle that's within you, that where you have to face yourself and face your fears and depend upon God and depend upon some friends that will get you through this thing. Without that, you will not find the success that you could get because of fear. It's something that's very real in all of us. It's something that's very real in every great leader that has ever lived. Can I give you one of them out of the Bible? He's maybe the greatest leader in the Old Testament. And I'm not blowing smoke. It's true. He is considered through the ages as one of the greatest leaders the world has ever seen. But he almost blew it. Because when he was asked by God to do the leading, he was fearful. You hear me? He was afraid. He thought, I can't do this thing. I can't do this thing. And he even argued with God. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? But he did. He argued with God and said, I can't do it. Can I give you some verses? We'll go quickly through this. I won't read all of them. But the person that I'm talking about, you may have guessed it already, was the man who led the children of Israel out of bondage in Egypt to the promised land. His name was, I heard it there, Moses. Moses. Now we know him as a great leader, someone who stood up strong in the faith, and yet there was a time when he almost backed down so severely that he did not accept the challenge. So God comes to him. Remember, he left Egypt with a kind of a bad deal. He killed someone. He killed an Egyptian to make it better for his fellow countrymen, the Hebrews. And the Hebrews said, what are you doing? Who are you going to tell is going to be our boss? And he got afraid, and he runs for 40 years. 40 years. He hides out in a small place in the desert, marries, he's a sheep herder. His life is basically over. He goes from the prince of Egypt to a sheep herder. And he thinks, my life is over. I'll never be able to do anything positive in my life. It's all over. And then 40 years later, God meets him in the desert. You remember the story? It's a well-known one. It's in the Bible. Exodus chapter 3. God appears in a burning bush that will not burn up. And Moses is drawn to that. He hears the voice, take off your shoes, you're on holy ground. In other words, this is God speaking. He does that. And then he says, Moses, here's what I want you to do. I want to get your suitcase together, get on a camel, head back to Egypt, because I want you, yes, you, Moses, to lead my people out of bondage. Moses, remember, he's been a failure for 40 years. He ran in fear. He lives in fear. And God now says, go back to the place of your greatest failure, and we're going to turn that sucker around. I'm going to help you lead these people out. But here's what he says. Verse 11 in chapter 3 of Exodus. Moses asked God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Do you hear what he says? You got the wrong man. You got the wrong man. I'm a failure. I can't do this. What do you think this is? God, are you serious? Now remember, who's he talking to? He's talking to God. Do you think God doesn't know what he's doing? And yet, fear makes us even oppose God. God says, look, I will certainly be with you. Just trust me. I will be there. And in his fear, he simply doesn't want to do it. So he continues to argue with God. In the next chapter, he says, okay, you'll go with me, but what if they won't believe me? And what if they won't obey me, but says, the Lord didn't appear to you? Says, I can't do it. I mean, who are they going to say that sent me? I mean, after all, people aren't going to listen to me. You know why they're not going to listen to me? Because I am a failure. That's right. Who in the world is going to listen to a failure? They want someone who's successful and that knows what they're doing and has accomplished great things. I'm nobody. You ever feel like that? You ever look around you and, man, as you get on, if you're watching this and going to college and you get on campus, I remember so vividly. I may have told you this at one time. I was a voice major in college, and I had been the #1 singer in my high school. And that was a big high school. We had like 500 in our graduating senior class. It was a big school, and I was the best. And I'm not bragging. I mean, I had all of the awards. I won all of the auditions. I was the lead in the school musical. I was the #1 singer. And so I went to the #1 conservatory, one of the best in the nation, happened to be in Cincinnati, where I live. But I was the big guy when it came, at least to singing. And I went to campus on college, and I thought, man, are they going to be lucky to have me? Because look at what I've accomplished. And I got on there, and I went to the 4th floor of the conservatory. Fourth floor was nothing but practice rooms. Everybody had their violin or cello or piano or trumpet or whatever it was, or singers. And I went on that fourth floor the first week, and I began to hear those singers that had been there for several years. Here I am, a freshman, and when I left that 4th floor, I got on the elevator, went down, I thought, what in the world am I doing here? I will never be able to be this good. I am already a failure. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? You look around and you listen and you say, who am I? I can't do this. God, you want me to do this? Nobody's going to know that. Are you kidding me? And I love what God does, and he asks him in verse 2 of chapter 4 of Exodus. He said, Moses, what's that in your hand? Now, that's an obscure kind of question, because he's been arguing with God. God says, I'll be with you, I'll help you, I'll guide you, I'll strengthen you, I'll do all these things. And he says, I still can't, don't buy it. And so he says, what's in your hand? And he says, well, it's a rod, it's a staff. And you remember he was a sheep herder, right? And so this was an important piece for him to protect the sheep and guide the sheep and push the sheep. And he said, it's a staff, it's a rod. I said, great. Look at it again. And he looks at it again. He said, now throw it on the ground. He throws it on the ground. As soon as he hits the ground, you know what it becomes? It becomes a snake. Not just any snake, a venomous snake. A snake that would kill you. So he jumps back. He says, hey, it's a snake. He says, great. Here's what I want you to do. Moses, pick up the snake by its tail. Now, I don't like snakes. Maybe you do, but I'm not a snake person. But especially if I know it's a poison, let's say it's a rattler snake. You know, you're familiar with that. And he says, pick it up. Now, I know this much. I don't want to pick up a snake, number one. But if I am going to pick up a snake, I need to pick it up by its head so he can't turn around and bite me. But he says, I want you to pick it up by the tail. Well, guess what's going to happen? As soon as you touch that tail, zap, it's going to get me right there. It's going to get me. There's no way. Do you see what God's doing? You're afraid of that snake, aren't you? Will you trust me? Will you pick it up by the tail? Whoa. But the thing that's good about Moses is that he trusted him in this particular incident, and he picks it up by the tail. And as soon as he does the snake come around and bite him? No. Turns right back into that staff again. Why do you do that? He said, if you can trust me in this, you can trust me in other things. You see, I need to learn trust a little bit at a time. And when that big challenge comes, look, I've done this, I can do the next thing. But you know what? Moses wasn't done yet. He's in verse 10, he says, Lord, I've not even ever been eloquent, either in the past or since you've been speaking to me. My mouth, my tongue, they're sluggish. In other words, I'm not good at talking. So what good is a leader if you can't talk? And the Lord says, okay, good gracious. Didn't I put a mouth on you? Am I not the Lord? I'll even send someone with you to talk for you. And he does, sends Aaron. Finally, Moses said, okay, I'll go. What would have happened if Moses had turned him down completely? We would never know about Moses. Children of Israel would have been absent a leader. One of the great ones would have never come to the surface. That might be you as well. That might be you as well. See, if God's calling you to do something, and that's why it's important for you to pray, read the Bible, and be aware of your surroundings. Because there may be opportunities that come to you that God says, I want you to step up and step in and step ahead. And if you're not learning and you're not growing and you're not trusting, you may miss something great. Listen to this Proverbs. You say, well, but I failed. I've blown it, so I'm tired. Though a righteous man falls 7 times, he will get up, but the wicked will stumble into ruin. The righteous person, if you fall 7 times, what do? You get up. Only the wicked, only those who give up will stay there. I like what John Maxwell, one of my guys that I like to read, he's a leadership teacher, and he says, when you fall, and you will, fall forward, and before you get up, grab a handful of the dirt that you fell on, because that should be a reminder to you that even though you fall, it will not conquer you. As you're heading out and you're working and you're maybe going to school, maybe going to college for the first time, hey, you're going to fail. You're going to. That's a given. But there is a God who has already forgiven you and says, I will be with you. Will you trust me? Try great things for God. Attempt them, try them, see what God might have in store for you. Don't let the fear of failure push you down and keep you down. You trust in God, and you might be another Moses. Who knows? It's possible, but you'll never know if you let failure defeat you. Get out there, guys. I believe in you. Talk to you later. See you next week.